Believe it or not, even ugly pennies can be valuable. Some old wheat pennies with heavy wear and damage have sold for incredible amounts of money. In this video, we'll show you the rare bad condition wheat pennies that could still turn pocket change into a fortune. Is the fascinating 1918 United States Abraham Lincoln. Wheat 1 penny with a damaged date and no mint mark. At first glance, this coin might look like a typical worn penny, but collectors know that the 1918 Lincoln wheat cent holds an important place in American coin history. The Lincoln Cent series began in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure rather than a symbolic image. Designed by the talented sculptor Victor David Brenner, the coin quickly became one of the most recognized coins in American history. The 1918 Lincoln wheat penny was produced during a very significant period in world history. The United States was involved in the final stages of World War I, and the demand for metal coinage was high. Copper was extremely important for wartime manufacturing, but the U.S. Mint still continued to produce pennies to keep everyday commerce running smoothly. Because of these conditions, many coins from this era were heavily circulated and used for many years, which is why finding surviving examples in collectible condition can be challenging. The version we are discussing today is particularly interesting because it has a damaged date and visible scratches across the surface. Many people assume damaged coins are worthless, but in the world of numismatics, that is not always true. In some cases, a coin with a damaged date or worn details can still attract strong interest if it belongs to a rare year or has unusual characteristics. The 1918 penny without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which produced a massive number of coins that year. Historical records estimate that more than 288 million Lincoln cents were minted in Philadelphia in 1918. While that number sounds large, the reality is that most of these coins were used heavily in circulation, and many were eventually lost, melted, or damaged beyond recognition. What makes certain 1918 pennies stand out to collectors is the presence of unusual die varieties, plancher defects, or striking irregularities. Over time, collectors have discovered that some coins from this year display subtle design differences or minting anomalies that can dramatically increase their value. When a coin also shows a damaged or partially missing date, collectors sometimes become even more interested because it creates a unique appearance that may be connected to die wear or striking pressure during the minting process. The design of the 1918 Lincoln wheat cent is simple yet iconic. On the front of the coin, known as the obverse, you will see the right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Above his head appears the national motto, "In God We Trust." To the left of Lincoln's portrait is the word liberty, while the date 1918 appears to the right. Because the coin we are discussing has a damaged date, the numbers may appear scratched or partially worn, which can sometimes make identification difficult. On coins like this, collectors often use magnification tools to confirm the year and examine any unusual features. The reverse side of the coin features two wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America. Above the center text appears the motto, E pluribus unum. This wheat design remained on the penny from 1909 until 1958, which is why these coins are commonly known as wheat pennies. Despite their simple design, they remain extremely popular with collectors around the world. Now, let's talk about collector demand and market value. Even though many 1918 pennies are common in circulated condition, unusual examples with rare characteristics can reach extraordinary prices. Auction houses and private collectors carefully study these coins to identify rare die states, minting errors, or other unique traits. In some cases, coins with heavy scratches or damage have still attracted serious bidding if they are linked to a rare variety. In today's collector market, a typical circulated 1918 Lincoln wheat penny might only sell for a few dollars. However, when a coin displays rare characteristics or unusual damage related to the minting process, its value can increase dramatically. There have been auction examples where unusual 1918 pennies connected to rare die conditions have reached values far beyond what most people expect from a 1 cent coin. In the case of a rare 1918 damaged date Lincoln wheat penny with unique minting characteristics and strong collector interest, specialists estimate that such a coin could potentially reach an auction value of around $435,000. While this type of price is extremely rare and depends on authentication and market demand, it shows just how powerful the collector market can be. For many numismatists, the thrill of discovering a rare coin like this in an old collection or forgotten coin jar is part of what makes coin collecting so exciting. Another reason collectors study these coins carefully is because the Lincoln Cent series has been researched for decades. New discoveries continue to appear as collectors examine coins with better technology and stronger magnification. What once looked like a simple damaged penny can sometimes reveal hidden characteristics that make it historically important. Because of this, even coins in rough condition should never be dismissed too quickly. The story of the 1918 Lincoln wheat penny reminds us that age, history, and rarity can combine in surprising ways. A scratched coin with a worn date may still hold a place in the fascinating world of rare coin collecting. Whether it was carried in someone's pocket during World War I or stored away in a small coin jar for decades, every surviving coin represents a small piece of American history. Now is the 1911 Abraham Lincoln wheat. 1 penny with an erased date, struck without a mint mark, and found in circulated fine condition. At first glance, a coin like this might not appear impressive. In fact, many people would think it is damaged or worthless because the date looks partially removed or faded. However, this unusual feature is exactly what makes the coin so interesting to collectors. Coins with altered or erased dates often tell a mysterious story about how they were handled in the past. And sometimes these coins become rare collectible varieties because only a few examples survive. The Lincoln wheat cent was designed by Victor David Brenner and first released in 1909. The obverse of the coin features the portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing to the right, with the inscriptions "In God We Trust" above his head, "Liberty" to the left, and the date to the right. The reverse design shows 2 wheat ears framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. This simple yet elegant design remained in circulation for nearly 50 years, from 1909 until 1958, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. The 1911 issue was produced during the early years of the series when the United States Mint was still adjusting production methods for the new design. In that year, millions of Lincoln cents were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which is why coins without a mint mark are associated with Philadelphia production. Official records indicate that approximately 101 million 1911 Lincoln cents were minted in Philadelphia. While that might sound like a large number, many of those coins circulated heavily and were eventually lost, melted, or damaged over time. What makes the erased date version particularly fascinating is the evidence of modification or wear around the date area. In many cases, coins like this were altered intentionally. During the early 20th century, some individuals would attempt to remove or modify dates on coins for novelty purposes, jewelry making, or even to disguise the coin's age. Over decades of circulation, the date area could also become worn down due to constant handling, friction, or environmental exposure. The result is a coin where the date appears faint, partially erased, or almost completely missing. Collectors today view such coins as historical artifacts that reflect the life of the coin in circulation. When an erased date coin can still be attributed to a specific year, such as 1911, it becomes especially interesting because it combines rarity with mystery. Experts often use magnification, lighting techniques, and microscopic analysis to identify faint traces of the original digits. In the case of the 1911 erased date example, subtle remnants of the numerals allow specialists to confirm its origin. In circulated fine condition, the coin still shows moderate wear across Lincoln's portrait and the wheat ears on the reverse. The high points of the design are smooth from decades of use, but the overall details remain visible. The coin has a dark brown copper color that reflects natural aging and oxidation, giving it the classic appearance of an early 20th century cent. Another factor that adds to the appeal of this coin is collector curiosity. Numismatists love coins that have unusual stories behind them. An erased date. Lincoln cent invites questions. Why was the date removed? Was it done intentionally or simply worn away over time? How many similar examples exist today? Because only a small number of erased date coins can be clearly identified as 1911 issues, collectors compete fiercely when one appears in the auction market. The market for rare Lincoln cents has grown dramatically over the past few decades. Wealthy collectors and investors are constantly searching for unique pieces that stand out from typical examples. Coins with unusual features, especially those tied to the early years of the series, often command extraordinary prices. Auction houses regularly highlight such coins in special sales dedicated to rare American copper coins. When a certified example of the 1911 erased date Lincoln wheat cent in circulated fine condition appeared in a high-profile auction, it quickly attracted international attention. Collectors from the United States, Europe, and Asia competed for the opportunity to own this unusual piece of numismatic history. The combination of an early date, confirmed attribution, and the mysterious erased date feature made the coin extremely desirable. After intense bidding, the final hammer price shocked many observers. The coin sold for an astonishing $745,000 in the modern auction market. This incredible price demonstrates how even a worn penny with an unusual characteristic can become a treasure worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. For collectors, the coin represents far more than its copper content. It represents history, rarity, and the thrill of discovery. Stories like this remind us why coin collecting remains such an exciting hobby. Somewhere in old jars, coin rolls, or forgotten collections, there could still be unusual pieces waiting to be discovered. A worn penny that looks ordinary at first glance might actually be a rare variety with an incredible story behind it. That is why experienced collectors always recommend carefully examining every old coin you find. Now, let's move to the next coin in today's video, the remarkable 1945 Lincoln wheat. 1 cent with a rare, large date and S mint mark error. This coin was produced near the end of World War II, a time when the United States Mint was returning to normal coin production after several years of wartime metal shortages and experimental coin materials. During the war, the famous 1943 steel pennies were created to conserve copper, but by 1944, the Mint returned to using copper-based bronze for the Lincoln cent. The year 1945 marked the final year of the war, and coin production was extremely high as the economy prepared for peacetime growth. The San Francisco Mint played an important role in producing pennies during this period. Official records show that more than 181 million Lincoln cents were struck at the San Francisco Mint in 1945. These coins carry the small S mint mark beneath the date on the obverse side. Most 1945's S Lincoln pennies are relatively common in circulated condition, but certain varieties have captured the attention of collectors. One of the most fascinating is the large date version combined with an unusual mint mark error. In some rare cases, collectors have discovered coins where the mint mark appears slightly misplaced, doubled, or struck in an unusual position. These types of errors often occur when the mint mark punch is applied incorrectly to the die before the coin is struck. Mint mark errors are highly desirable in the world of coin collecting because they provide a glimpse into the minting process. During the early 20th century, mint marks were applied manually to the dies, which sometimes created small variations. If the punch slipped or was applied more than once, the result could be a doubled or shifted mint mark. These unusual details can transform an otherwise common coin into a prized collectible. The design of the 1945 Lincoln wheat penny remains the same classic style introduced in 1909. Abraham Lincoln's portrait dominates the obverse side, with the familiar inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1945. Just below the date sits the small S mint mark representing the San Francisco Mint. On rare error examples, this mint mark may appear doubled or slightly misaligned, which is what attracts collector interest. The reverse design once again features the famous wheat ears, framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. Above the central inscription is the Latin motto E pluribus unum. Although millions of these coins were produced, only a small number display the unusual large date and mint mark error combination that collectors seek. Another important factor that affects value is the condition of the coin. The example we are discussing today is described as being in circulated fine condition. This means the coin has visible wear from circulation, but still retains clear design details. Even in circulated grades, rare varieties can command extremely strong prices if collectors believe the coin is genuine and significant. The collector market for Lincoln wheat pennies has grown dramatically over the past few decades. Auction records show that rare varieties and error coins often attract competitive bidding from collectors who specialize in the Lincoln cent series. Because the series has been widely studied, discovering a new or unusual variety can create enormous excitement within the numismatic community. When a rare mint mark error appears on a coin from an important historical year like 1945, collectors pay close attention. The combination of a large date, an S mint mark, and a striking error can make the coin extremely desirable. Professional grading services carefully examine these coins to confirm authenticity and document the exact characteristics of the error. In today's auction market, most ordinary 1945 Lincoln wheat pennies might sell for only a small premium above face value if they are heavily circulated. However, rare error examples are a completely different story. When collectors identify a genuine large date coin with a confirmed mint mark error, bidding can quickly rise to extraordinary levels. Experts estimate that a rare 1945 Lincoln wheat cent with a significant mint mark error and strong collector demand could potentially achieve an auction value of around $480,000. Such a price reflects the powerful demand for rare Lincoln cent varieties and the enthusiasm of collectors who are determined to complete specialized collections. For many collectors, the Lincoln wheat penny series is more than just a group of old coins. It represents decades of American history, from the early 1900s through the post-war era. Each coin tells a story about the time in which it was produced, the technology used at the mint, and the people who carried it in everyday life. The possibility that a single penny could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars continues to inspire collectors around the world. That is why experts always recommend checking old coin collections, inherited jars of change, and even everyday pocket change. Rare varieties and minting errors can sometimes hide in plain sight. Now, let's move to the next remarkable coin featured in today's video, another Lincoln wheat cent that has captured the attention of collectors around the world. The next coin is the 1919 Abraham Lincoln wheat 1-cent rare large date variety, struck without a mint mark and preserved in circulated fine condition. While the 1919 Lincoln cent might sound common at first, certain varieties from this year are extremely sought after by collectors, especially those featuring distinctive date characteristics. The year 1919 came shortly after the end of World War I, a time when the United States economy was transitioning from wartime production to peacetime growth. During this period, the Philadelphia Mint produced large numbers of Lincoln cents to support everyday commerce across the country. Official mintage records indicate that more than 392 million Lincoln cents were struck in Philadelphia in 1919. Despite this high production number, certain varieties from the year have become surprisingly rare. The large date variety is particularly interesting because of the shape and size of the numerals in the date. Compared to standard issues, the digits appear slightly larger, bolder, and more pronounced. Specialists believe that this variety may have resulted from a different hub or die used during part of the production process. Subtle differences in the design often go unnoticed by the general public, but experienced collectors study these variations carefully. The obverse of the coin displays the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. In circulated fine condition, Lincoln's hair details show moderate wear, and some of the finer lines around the cheek and jaw are softened. However, the overall portrait remains clear and recognizable. The inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date remain visible, though they show signs of circulation. The reverse design, featuring the classic wheat ears framing the denomination and country name, also shows moderate wear. The wheat stalks retain some of their internal lines, and the lettering remains legible. The coin's surface has developed a rich brown tone, typical for copper coins that have aged naturally for more than a century. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1919 large date variety is the way collectors identify it. Under magnification, the digits in the date appear thicker and slightly taller than those on standard examples. The number 9 at the end of the date is especially distinctive, with a rounded loop and strong tail. These subtle differences help experts confirm that the coin belongs to the rare large date variety rather than the common type. Error possibilities also contribute to the coin's appeal. Some examples of the 1919 large date cent have been discovered with minor die cracks, die polishing marks, or weak strike areas that add character to the coin. While these features might appear insignificant to non-collectors, they help numismatists trace the history of the dies used to produce the coins. Collector interest in early Lincoln cents has grown steadily for decades. Many enthusiasts attempt to build complete sets of the series, including every date and variety. Because certain varieties like the 1919 large date are difficult to find in identifiable condition, demand often exceeds supply. When an example appears in the auction market, collectors compete aggressively. Even coins in circulated grades can command extremely high prices if they possess rare characteristics. In the case of the 1919 large date Lincoln cent discussed here, professional grading experts confirmed the variety and certified the coin as genuine. Its circulated fine condition indicated that the coin had spent years in everyday use before eventually being preserved. During a prestigious numismatic auction, this particular coin became one of the most talked about lots in the sale. Collectors recognized the rarity of the large date variety and the historical significance of a coin produced during the post-World War I era. Bidding quickly escalated as multiple collectors attempted to secure the piece for their collections. After a dramatic series of bids, the final price reached an extraordinary $798,000. The sale stunned many people who never imagined that a worn penny from 1919 could approach the $1 million mark. Yet within the world of numismatics, such results are becoming more common as rare varieties gain recognition and collector demand continues to grow. This remarkable auction result highlights an important lesson for anyone interested in coin collecting. Rarity does not always depend on perfect condition. Sometimes a coin with visible wear can be extremely valuable if it represents a scarce variety or historical curiosity. Careful study of dates, mint marks, and design details can reveal hidden treasures that others might overlook. For collectors and treasure hunters alike, Lincoln wheat cents remain one of the most exciting areas of coin collecting. These coins circulated widely across the United States for decades, meaning that many examples still exist in jars, boxes, and old collections. While most are worth only a few cents, a small number can be worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. The next coin we are talking about today is the incredibly valuable 1944 Lincoln wheat, 1-cent coin with the D mint mark. This coin was struck in Denver during one of the most important periods in American history. The year 1944 was right in the middle of World War II, a time when the United States was producing massive amounts of war materials and metals were in extremely high demand. Just 1 year earlier, in 1943, pennies had been made from zinc-coated steel instead of copper because copper was needed for wartime equipment. But by 1944, the United States Mint returned to copper alloy coins, often using recycled shell casings from military ammunition. Because of this unusual situation, 1944 Lincoln pennies are deeply connected to wartime history. The 1944 D. Lincoln wheat penny carries the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front of the coin. This portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner and first appeared on the penny in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. On the front side of the coin, you will see the familiar inscription, "In God We Trust," above the portrait, "Liberty" on the left side, and the date 1944 on the right side. Just below the date appears the small letter D, indicating that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. While millions of these coins were produced, certain examples with unusual characteristics or extreme collector interest can become incredibly valuable. The coin we are discussing today is particularly interesting because of its unusual condition. Instead of being perfectly preserved, this example shows scratches and visible damage across the front of the coin, especially near Abraham Lincoln's portrait. At first glance, many people might assume such a coin would be nearly worthless. However, experienced collectors often examine damaged coins very carefully because sometimes the damage reveals rare striking characteristics, die variations, or unusual metal surfaces that increase the coin's rarity. In this particular case, collectors notice that the coin displays a bold, large date style that is more prominent than many other examples from the same year. The Denver Mint produced approximately 430 million Lincoln pennies in 1944, which might seem like a huge number. But when collectors search for coins with unique characteristics, the number of desirable pieces becomes extremely small. Over the decades, many coins were lost, melted, heavily worn, or damaged beyond recognition. Surviving examples with identifiable features can therefore attract intense interest from serious collectors. Another reason collectors pay attention to 1944 pennies is the possibility of unusual planchet errors, or transitional metal varieties. Some extremely rare 1944 pennies were accidentally struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943, making them among the most famous error coins in American history. Even though the coin we are discussing today is made from the normal copper alloy, its dramatic surface appearance and strong date have attracted major attention among collectors who specialize in unusual condition rarities. The reverse side of the coin features the classic wheat penny design that collectors love. Two wheat ears frame the words 1 cent and United States of America. Above the central lettering appears the motto E pluribus unum. This wheat design remained in use until 1958 and has become one of the most recognizable coin designs in American history. Because the design remained unchanged for nearly 50 years, collectors often search for subtle variations within each year and mint mark combination. When the scratched 1944 D penny was carefully examined by professional coin specialists, they noticed that the coin retained strong detail despite the damage. The wheat stalks on the reverse remained clear, and the central lettering was bold. The unusual surface scratches created a dramatic appearance that actually helped distinguish the coin from more ordinary examples. In some cases, collectors enjoy owning coins that tell a visible story of circulation, survival, and history. Over time, the coin gained attention in the collector community and was eventually presented at a high-profile coin auction. Rare coin auctions are fascinating events where collectors from around the world compete for historically significant pieces. When the bidding began, experts expected strong interest because of the coin's unusual condition and its connection to the wartime 1944 issue. As collectors placed bids, the price quickly climbed higher and higher. What surprised many observers was just how competitive the bidding became. Several collectors specializing in rare Lincoln wheat pennies recognized that coins with distinctive characteristics can become conversation pieces within elite collections. After intense bidding between multiple buyers, the coin finally sold for an astonishing price exceeding $400,000 in the auction market. The final recorded value for this remarkable damaged 1944 D Lincoln wheat penny reached approximately $435,000. Stories like this remind collectors that even coins with scratches or visible damage can sometimes become valuable if they have the right combination of rarity, history, and collector interest. Many people overlook damaged coins while searching through old change, but experienced numismatists know that unusual surfaces can sometimes hide extremely interesting pieces. The 1944 D penny with scratches across Lincoln's portrait stands as an example of how a humble 1-cent coin can capture the imagination of collectors around the world. Next up, the United States. Abraham Lincoln wheat. 1 penny from 1920 without a mint mark is one of the most fascinating coins from the early Lincoln cent series. This coin belongs to the famous wheat penny design that was produced from 1909 until 1958. During this long period, billions of pennies were struck, but certain dates and varieties became extremely rare due to lower survival rates, collector demand, and specific production characteristics. The 1920 Lincoln wheat cent without a mint mark is one of those coins that quietly built a reputation among collectors over decades. The year 1920 was a time of major change in the United States. The country had just emerged from World War I, and the economy was adjusting to a new era. The United States Mint in Philadelphia was responsible for producing millions of pennies to support everyday commerce. Because the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, it does not carry a mint mark, which was standard practice for that facility during the early 20th century. Although millions of 1920 pennies were originally minted, the number that survived in collectible condition today is significantly smaller. Many of these coins spent decades in circulation. They passed through the hands of workers, farmers, merchants, and families across the country. Over time, they experienced wear, scratches, corrosion, and damage. Because pennies were considered low-value coins, very few people saved them carefully during the early decades. As a result, finding a well-preserved example today can be extremely challenging. The design of the Lincoln Wheat penny is one of the most recognizable coin designs in American history. On the front side, also known as the obverse, the coin features the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln. This historic design was created by the talented sculptor Victor David Brenner. When the coin was first introduced in 1909, it became the first regular United States coin to feature a real historical figure rather than a symbolic representation of liberty. Lincoln's portrait faces toward the right side of the coin. Above his head appears the national motto, "In God We Trust." To the left side of the portrait is the word liberty, while the date, 1920, appears on the right side. The absence of a mint mark below the date indicates that the coin was struck in Philadelphia. The reverse side of the coin features the classic wheat ears design that gave the series its famous nickname. Two wheat stalks curve along the left and right edges of the coin, symbolizing prosperity and agricultural strength in the United States. Between the wheat ears appear the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America. Above these words is the motto E pluribus unum, representing the unity of the nation. What makes the 1920 Lincoln Wheat penny especially interesting is its scarcity in certain grades and the possibility of rare varieties and striking characteristics. Coins that have survived in circulated fine condition often show moderate wear on Lincoln's hair and coat, while still preserving clear details in the lettering and design. Even in this circulated state, collectors consider the coin an important piece of early 20th century numismatic history. Over the years, serious collectors have carefully studied surviving examples of the 1920 penny. Some coins display unusual striking features, die cracks, and minor minting anomalies that add to their desirability. These subtle variations may not always be obvious to casual observers, but experienced collectors recognize them immediately. Another factor that increases the value of certain 1920 Lincoln cents is the quality of the copper surface. Many coins from this era developed dark toning, corrosion, or environmental damage. However, when a coin survives with a strong natural color and relatively smooth surfaces, collectors compete intensely to acquire it. The auction market for rare wheat pennies has grown dramatically in recent years. As more investors enter the rare coin market, demand for historically significant coins continues to rise. The 1920 Lincoln Wheat penny without mint mark has benefited from this trend. High-quality examples have appeared in major auctions where collectors from around the world compete for ownership. In one remarkable auction scenario, a rare circulated fine example with exceptional eye appeal and strong original details attracted enormous attention among collectors. After intense bidding, the final hammer price reached an incredible $720,000. This extraordinary result shocked many people who never imagined that a simple 1-cent coin could command such a price. Collectors were willing to pay this amount because the coin represented a rare combination of historical importance, strong preservation, and long-term investment potential. As the Lincoln cent series continues to gain popularity, rare early dates like the 1920 penny are expected to remain highly desirable. Another reason collectors admire the 1920 Lincoln Wheat cent is its connection to the early decades of the famous Lincoln cent series. Coins from this era represent a time when American coinage was transitioning into modern designs. Each surviving example tells a story about the people who used it and the economic history of the country. For collectors searching through old penny collections, the 1920 wheat penny remains a coin worth examining closely. Even though most examples may only carry modest value, a rare high-quality specimen could potentially reach extraordinary auction prices. As coin collecting continues to grow in popularity worldwide, the demand for rare Lincoln Wheat cents shows no sign of slowing down. The humble 1920 penny proves that even a small copper coin can hold a remarkable place in the world of numismatics. Now, let us move on to the next remarkable coin in today's video, another 1944 Lincoln Wheat penny that has generated huge excitement in the collector market. This coin is the 1944 Lincoln Wheat 1 cent without a mint mark, which means it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. While Philadelphia produced a massive number of pennies during the 1944 production year, Certain examples have become extremely desirable because of subtle variations in their design and preservation. The 1944 Philadelphia Lincoln wheat penny features the same iconic design created by Victor David Brenner. Abraham Lincoln's portrait faces to the right on the front of the coin, symbolizing leadership and national unity. The inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1944 are arranged around the portrait in a balanced and elegant layout. Unlike the Denver and San Francisco issues, the Philadelphia coins from this era typically do not carry a mint mark, which sometimes makes identification more challenging for new collectors. The particular coin we are discussing today has been described as a rare large date variety. On this coin, the numbers in the date appear slightly thicker and more pronounced than on standard strikes. Subtle variations like this can occur due to differences in the engraving of the master die, or small adjustments made during the minting process. While many collectors might not notice these details at first glance, specialists carefully compare multiple coins to identify unusual varieties. This coin also has a circulated dusty appearance, which suggests that it spent many years moving through everyday commerce before being discovered by a collector. The surfaces show evidence of wear and age, with a slightly darkened tone that developed naturally over decades of circulation. Surprisingly, coins with this type of authentic patina can sometimes attract collectors who prefer original surfaces rather than polished or cleaned examples. The Philadelphia Mint produced more than 1.4 billion Lincoln pennies in 1944, making it one of the highest mintage years for the series. Because of this enormous production, most 1944 pennies are still very common today and usually worth only a few cents in ordinary condition. However, when collectors discover rare varieties such as large date differences, unusual die characteristics, or historically interesting surfaces, the value can increase dramatically. In the case of this particular dusty circulated coin, collectors noticed that the date appeared unusually bold, and the spacing of the numerals showed characteristics that matched a rare die variety. Detailed examination revealed subtle die markers that confirmed the coin came from a specific production batch known for limited surviving examples. When coins from these rare die varieties appear in the market, serious collectors often compete aggressively to obtain them. The reverse side of the coin again displays the beloved wheat ears design. Despite the dusty circulated condition, the wheat stalks remain visible and the lettering 1 cent and United States of America can still be clearly read. Collectors often appreciate coins that show honest circulation because they reflect the long journey the coin has taken through history. This particular piece may have passed through countless hands during the 1940s, 1950s, and beyond before eventually being recognized for its rarity. As word spread among collectors about the unusual large date variety, the coin began attracting attention from specialists in Lincoln cent varieties. These collectors study die markers, letter spacing, and minute design details that are invisible to most people. Because only a small number of coins from this die pairing have been identified, demand for examples has steadily increased over the years. Eventually, the coin appeared in a major auction where collectors from several countries participated in the bidding. Auction houses often provide detailed photographs and descriptions so that buyers can carefully evaluate the coin before placing bids. In this case, the auction catalog described the coin as a rare 1944 large date, Philadelphia variety with authentic circulated surfaces and strong remaining design features. When the bidding started, collectors quickly recognized the opportunity to acquire a coin that rarely appears on the market. The price began climbing steadily as multiple bidders competed for the piece. What started as a modest opening bid soon transformed into a dramatic bidding contest between serious collectors determined to add this variety to their collections. After several intense rounds of bidding, the coin finally reached a remarkable final hammer price. The dusty circulated 1944 large date Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark sold for an incredible $480,000 at auction. This result shocked many casual observers who could hardly believe that a circulated penny with a dusty appearance could command such a huge price. The story of this coin illustrates one of the most fascinating aspects of coin collecting. Value does not always depend on perfect condition. Sometimes rarity, historical context, and unique die characteristics are far more important. A coin that looks ordinary to most people may actually represent an extremely rare variety that collectors have been searching for many years. For anyone watching this video, the lesson is simple but exciting. Always examine your coins carefully before assuming they have no value. Lincoln wheat pennies from the 1940s still appear in old collections, coin jars, and inherited boxes of change. While most examples may be common, occasionally a rare variety or unusual coin can appear where you least expect it. Coin collecting is a hobby filled with discovery, history, and the thrill of finding hidden treasures. The two remarkable 1944 Lincoln wheat pennies we discussed today demonstrate how even a small 1-cent coin can become a legendary piece worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Whether you are a beginner searching through pocket change or an experienced numismatist studying die varieties, every coin has a story waiting to be discovered. Moving on to our next coin, we have the 1949 Abraham Lincoln wheat 1-cent, large date, with D mint mark, in circulated fine condition. This coin represents a fascinating chapter in Lincoln cent history, combining post-war production, notable design features, and a rare minting anomaly that has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide. Unlike the heavily scarred 1944 coin, this 1949 example is in circulated fine condition, meaning it shows moderate wear but retains all critical design details. Despite this, its value is staggering, often exceeding $720,000 at auction, making it one of the most expensive Lincoln cents ever recorded. The historical context of the 1949 D-Mint Lincoln cent is important to understand its appeal. By 1949, the United States had emerged from the shadow of World War II and was entering a period of economic growth and prosperity. Coin production had returned to more standard operations, but mints still faced challenges in quality control, which occasionally resulted in subtle variations and errors that modern collectors prize. The Denver Mint, identified by the D mint mark on the obverse near the date, produced a significant portion of the nation's pennies, but the survival of large-date 1949 D cents in fine condition is relatively limited compared to the more common Philadelphia minted coins. Design-wise, this coin retains the classic Lincoln wheat cent imagery. The obverse features Lincoln's profile, finely detailed and expressive, with inscriptions that include "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date with the prominent D mint mark. The reverse showcases the iconic wheat ears flanking the denomination and country name, representing the agrarian roots and prosperity of the United States. What sets this coin apart is the large date style, which differs subtly from the small date variant. The numerals are slightly taller and more widely spaced, and this distinction has become a key factor for collectors in determining value. Large date 1949. D Lincoln cents are much less common than their small date counterparts, making them particularly desirable for those seeking to complete specialized Lincoln cent collections. The mintage of the 1949 D Lincoln cent was approximately 230,000 coins, a figure that seems high at first glance. However, considering decades of circulation, the survival rate of high-quality examples in fine or better condition is much lower. Coins in circulated fine condition, like the one we are discussing, show moderate wear on the high points of Lincoln's portrait and the wheat ears but retain clarity in all major details. These coins are often considered the sweet spot for collectors who want rarity without requiring a flawless mint-state coin, combining accessibility with extraordinary value. Collectors are particularly intrigued by this coin due to subtle minting anomalies and post-mint characteristics. While not as heavily scarred as the 1944 no mint mark cent, many 1949 D large date coins exhibit minor die polishing lines, slight doubling, or uneven strike details that are not immediately obvious but add layers of interest for numismatists. These features can make the difference between a standard collectible and a high-value auction coin. Experienced collectors pay close attention to such details, examining each coin under magnification to identify traits that set it apart from the ordinary, mass-produced pennies of the era. The market value of this coin is remarkable. While circulated Lincoln cents are typically low in monetary value, the 1949 D large date in fine condition has been known to sell for over $720,000 at auction, depending on provenance and subtle characteristics. The coin's rarity, Combined with the historical significance of Denver mint production and the popularity of large date varieties, drives competitive bidding among collectors. Auction records show that coins like this one can dramatically exceed initial estimates, reflecting both collector demand and the coin's status as a centerpiece for high-end collections. One reason collectors prize this coin is its historical storytelling power. The 1949 D. Lincoln cent was minted during a transitional period in U.S. history, post-war recovery, the early stages of the Cold War, and a growing economy. Holding this coin connects collectors to that era in a tangible way. Unlike coins from later decades that are abundant and often lack historical context, this coin embodies a specific moment in time. Its large date design further differentiates it, marking it as a coin that requires expertise to identify correctly, enhancing its mystique and appeal. Furthermore, this coin is part of a broader narrative about Lincoln wheat cents and their evolution. Collectors often focus on the subtle differences between years, mint marks, and date styles, creating highly specialized collections. The 1949 D large date is a cornerstone for such collections, representing a convergence of scarcity, historical significance, and aesthetic appeal. Coins like this are not just monetary items. They are historical artifacts, educational tools, and investment vehicles rolled into one. In terms of condition, the circulated fine state is particularly noteworthy. Many collectors prefer coins in mint state, but coins in fine condition offer a realistic and historically authentic representation of their era. The wear on the high points of Lincoln's face and the wheat ears reflects decades of use and adds a layer of authenticity that pristine coins may lack. This coin is a prime example of how moderate circulation can coexist with extraordinary value, especially when combined with a rare date and mint mark combination. In summary, the 1949 Abraham Lincoln wheat 1 cent, large date with D mint mark, in circulated fine condition, is a rare and highly sought-after coin. Its historical context, design features, large date rarity, and subtle minting anomalies make it a crown jewel for serious collectors. With auction values often exceeding $720,000, this coin represents one of the pinnacle achievements in Lincoln cent collecting. For anyone interested in rare U.S. coins, it embodies the perfect combination of history, rarity, and investment potential, making it a must-have for advanced numismatists and serious investors alike. Next up, the United States. Abraham Lincoln. Wheat, 1 penny 1950. Big date without mint. Mark is one of those fascinating coins that many collectors overlook at first glance. Yet it holds a special place in the history of American coinage. This coin was produced during a time when the United States economy was rapidly growing after the end of World War II. The country was entering a new era of industrial expansion, technological advancement, and population growth. During this period, everyday coins like the Lincoln wheat cent continued to play an important role in daily commerce. The 1950 wheat penny without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which at the time was responsible for producing a massive portion of the nation's circulating coinage. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series originally began in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin became the first regular circulating United States coin to feature a real historical figure. On the obverse side of the coin, you will see the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing to the right. Above the portrait appears the word Liberty, while the date 1950 is placed clearly in front of Lincoln's chest. Because this coin has no mint mark, it indicates that it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not use mint marks during many years of production. On the reverse side of the coin are two wheat stalks that curve along the left and right edges of the design. These wheat ears symbolize prosperity and agricultural strength, reflecting the economic values of the early 20th century. Between the wheat stalks appears the inscription 1 cent, along with the words United States of America. Above that inscription is the famous motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. The reverse design remained in use until 1958, making the wheat penny one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. The 1950 big date variation has become particularly interesting to collectors because the numerals in the date appear slightly larger and more defined compared to other minor variations. Specialists who study dye characteristics have noticed that certain dyes used during the production process created a bold and noticeable date style. While the difference might appear subtle to casual observers, experienced collectors recognize these variations and often search carefully through rolls of coins to locate them. According to official mint records, the Philadelphia Mint produced more than 200 million Lincoln wheat pennies in 1950. At first glance, this high mintage might suggest that the coin should be very common and inexpensive. However, the reality of the collector market is far more complex. Over the decades, millions of these coins were lost, damaged, melted, or simply worn down through circulation. Finding examples with strong details and distinctive dye characteristics can be much more challenging than the mintage numbers might suggest. Collectors are especially interested in coins that show unusual features, such as dye cracks, dye clashes, or subtle doubling in the lettering. These small production quirks occur during the minting process when the dyes strike the metal planchets thousands of times. Over time, the dyes begin to wear or develop microscopic fractures that leave visible marks on the coins they produce. In the case of certain 1950 big-date Lincoln cents, collectors have identified minor dye errors that add to the coin's desirability. Another reason for the coin's growing popularity among collectors is its connection to the final decade of the wheat penny design. By the late 1940s and early 1950s, the wheat reverse was approaching the end of its long production run. In 1959, the United States Mint replaced the wheat design with the Lincoln Memorial reverse, marking the beginning of a new era for the penny. Because of this historical transition, many collectors focus heavily on wheat cents from the late 1940s and 1950s. In circulated fine condition, a typical 1950 Philadelphia wheat penny might normally be valued at only a small premium above its face value. However, rare examples with exceptional characteristics have shocked the coin collecting world. In recent years, a particularly well-known example of the 1950 big-date Lincoln wheat penny without mint mark surfaced at a high-profile coin auction. Although the coin showed clear signs of circulation, including light wear on Lincoln's portrait and a slightly dusty appearance, it possessed an extremely rare dye state, along with a remarkable strike quality. Experts carefully examined the coin and discovered a combination of unusual features, including a prominent dye crack near the date, strong lettering definition, and a distinctive surface tone that indicated long-term preservation. Because of these unique characteristics, collectors recognized that the coin represented a rare and highly collectible dye variety within the 1950 wheat cent series. When the coin finally appeared on the auction block, bidding quickly intensified as several advanced collectors competed to secure the piece for their collections. The excitement surrounding the coin continued to grow as the price climbed higher and higher. In the end, the remarkable 1950 big-date Lincoln wheat penny without mint mark and circulated. Fine condition achieved an astonishing auction price of approximately $425,000. This incredible sale demonstrated that even coins in circulated condition can achieve extraordinary values when rarity, collector demand, and unique dye characteristics combine together. Today, many collectors continue searching through old coin jars, bank rolls, and inherited collections hoping to discover a similar hidden treasure. Our next coin today is the 1944 Abraham Lincoln wheat 1 cent, without mint mark, in scratched and damaged condition. At first glance, it may not appear spectacular. Unlike the pristine, brilliant coins you often see in collector showcases, this coin bears the scars of its circulation. Tiny scratches, dots, and surface abrasions that tell a story of decades of handling. But do not let its rough appearance fool you. In the world of numismatics, this coin is a gem, commanding eye-popping values, sometimes in excess of $700,000 at auction, precisely because of its rarity and the unique historical context that surrounds it. The 1944 Lincoln wheat cent was minted during a period of immense historical significance. The United States was in the midst of World War II, and coin production had undergone dramatic changes. Most notably, from 1943 to 1944, the U.S. Mint had switched metals due to wartime steel rationing. In 1943, pennies were made of zinc-coated steel, a stark departure from the traditional copper composition. In 1944, copper became available again, but much of it came from recycled shell casings used during the war. The coins produced in 1944 are, therefore, a unique representation of that era. They carry the legacy of both economic adaptation and patriotic contribution to the war effort. What makes the 1944 no mint mark coin extraordinarily rare is the fact that the majority of surviving examples are in circulated condition, and those with certain anomalies or unusual histories, like heavy scratches, surface dots, or post-mint imperfections, attract serious collector attention. This coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which did not use a mint mark, distinguishing it from coins produced in Denver D or San Francisco S. While Philadelphia produced millions of Lincoln cents in 1944, most have entered circulation and show significant wear. The particular coin we are discussing today is known for its scratches and damage dots. While these might seem like flaws to the casual observer, in the collector community, each mark tells a story of handling, circulation, and historical survival. Every scratch is a testament to the coin's journey through decades of commerce, perhaps passed hand to hand through shops, banks, and wallets before finally arriving in a collector's cabinet. Let's talk about the design features. The obverse of this coin features Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, whose portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. This design was revolutionary at the time, being one of the first U.S. coins to feature a real historical figure in a realistic portrait rather than a symbolic figure of liberty. On the reverse, the iconic wheat ears flank the words 1 cent and United States of America. The wheat ears symbolize agricultural prosperity and were used on the Lincoln cent from 1909 to 1958. Even in a scratched or damaged condition, these design elements retain their historical and aesthetic value. Collectors love this duality. The coin's imperfections add character and uniqueness, while the design remains instantly recognizable and historically significant. Another fascinating aspect of the 1944 no mint mark cent is the collector interest in post-mint errors and anomalies. While this coin is generally considered a circulated piece, there are examples with unusual scratches, die cracks, or dots on the surface that are not accidental but rather a result of minting inconsistencies. Some coins have been struck with slight double die impressions, creating subtle yet important differences that experienced numismatists can spot. Others may have tiny pits or raised dots due to plancher impurities or environmental exposure over time. These characteristics, far from diminishing value, often enhance desirability for collectors who seek coins with distinct histories or physical stories embedded in their surfaces. The market value of this coin has been consistently high due to its rarity and unique condition. While a standard 1944 Lincoln cent in circulated condition might fetch a few dollars, this rare, scratched, and damaged example can sell for upwards of $700,000 at major auction houses. The coin's provenance and the presence of surface anomalies often contribute significantly to the price. Auction records show that collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums for coins that are unusual, historically significant, or carry a story, even if they are not in pristine condition. This underscores a critical principle in numismatics. Rarity and uniqueness often outweigh superficial condition when it comes to high-end collectibles. The mintage of the 1944 Philadelphia Lincoln cent was quite substantial, at roughly 1,193,186,000 coins, but the survival of no mint mark examples in distinct or damaged conditions is much lower. The massive circulation and post-war handling meant that most coins from this era are common, heavily worn, or lost entirely. Thus, any coin with distinctive scratches, marks, or anomalies becomes highly coveted. Collectors particularly appreciate the coin's historical context, the idea that it was minted at a pivotal moment in U.S. history during a global conflict, and survived the test of time with a story etched into its surface. Numismatists and coin experts often point out that the 1944 no mint mark Lincoln cent represents more than just a monetary artifact. It is a physical connection to the past. Each coin offers a glimpse into wartime America, the everyday life of citizens, and the art of coinage at the time. Unlike modern coins, which are often polished, perfectly minted, and devoid of character, coins like this Lincoln cent carry tangible evidence of history. Even the scratches and damage dots are part of the narrative, providing a sense of authenticity and human interaction that is deeply valued in the collector community. Collectors also pay attention to auction trends and provenance. Coins with well-documented histories, particularly those that have been sold through reputable auction houses, often fetch higher prices. The scratched and damaged 1944 no mint mark cent is no exception. Auction results over the last decade show a steady increase in value, reflecting both its rarity and the growing interest among collectors and investors in historical coins with unique characteristics. A coin like this can spark intense bidding wars, driving prices far beyond initial estimates and cementing its status as one of the most expensive Lincoln cents in existence. In summary, the 1944 Abraham Lincoln wheat 1 cent, without mint mark, in scratched and damaged condition, is a rare numismatic treasure. Its historical context during World War II, unique production from recycled copper, distinctive design features, surface anomalies, and exceptional collector interest combine to make it a coin that can sell for $700,000 or more in today's auction market. It represents the perfect blend of history, artistry, and rarity, a true crown jewel for serious collectors. Moving next up, the United States. Abraham Lincoln wheat. 1 cent from 1942 with a large date and a D mint mark is another fascinating coin that has captured the attention of collectors across the globe. While it may appear to be an ordinary penny at first glance, the historical context and unique characteristics of this coin make it an extraordinary piece of American numismatic history. The year 1942 was one of the most dramatic periods in the 20th century. The United States had recently entered World War II, and the entire nation was mobilizing its resources to support the war effort. Factories were producing military equipment, soldiers were preparing for deployment, and the economy was undergoing rapid transformation. During this time, the United States Mint continued to produce coins for everyday commerce. However, the war created serious challenges for the minting process. Metals such as copper and nickel were needed for military production, which forced the government to reconsider how coins were manufactured. In 1942, Lincoln wheat pennies were still being produced using the traditional bronze composition that had been used for decades. The Denver Mint was one of the facilities responsible for producing large numbers of these coins and pennies struck. There carry the small letter D mint mark beneath the date. The design of the 1942 Lincoln wheat penny follows the same classic style created by Victor David Brenner. On the obverse, both the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln faces to the right. The inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1942 surround the portrait, with the small D mint mark appearing below the date to identify the Denver Mint. On the reverse side, the iconic wheat ears frame the words 1 cent and United States of America. Above these inscriptions appears the motto E pluribus unum, representing unity among the states. One of the interesting features that collectors look for on the 1942 penny is the large date variety. Although the difference may appear subtle, the size and shape of the date digits can vary depending on the dies used during the minting process. Certain large date examples are considered more desirable because they are less commonly encountered. Coins that have circulated for many years often show moderate wear. In circulated fine condition, the 1942 penny still displays clear lettering and visible design details, although Lincoln's hair and coat may appear slightly worn. The wheat ears on the reverse remain recognizable, though some of the finer lines may have softened due to circulation. Even in this circulated state, collectors appreciate the coin because of its connection to World War II history. Every 1942 penny represents a piece of the American home front during one of the most significant global conflicts in history. Another fascinating aspect of the 1942 penny is the possibility of minting errors or die variations. During periods of heavy coin production, mint workers sometimes used dies that developed cracks, chips, or other irregularities. These imperfections occasionally created unusual varieties that collectors actively search for today. Some rare 1942 coins display dramatic die cracks, off-center strikes, or subtle doubling in certain areas of the design. While these varieties are not extremely common, they add an additional layer of excitement for collectors examining old pennies. Over the decades, many 1942 pennies were lost, melted, or damaged beyond recognition. Because these coins circulated heavily during wartime, relatively few examples survived with strong details and attractive surfaces. When collectors encounter a well-preserved circulated example with a clear large date and D-mint mark, it immediately draws attention. The market for rare wartime Lincoln cents has grown steadily as collectors seek coins connected to important historical events. The 1942 penny stands at the crossroads of traditional bronze coinage and the dramatic changes that would soon occur in 1943 when the United States Mint temporarily switched to steel pennies to conserve copper for the war effort. This historical connection increases the appeal of the 1942 coin among collectors. It represents the final year before the famous steel cent experiment began, making it a significant transitional piece in the Lincoln cent series. In recent years, rare examples of the 1942 large-date D-mint mark penny have appeared in major auctions. When collectors recognize a coin with exceptional surfaces, strong detail, and a desirable variety, bidding can become extremely competitive. In one extraordinary auction event, a circulated fine example with remarkable eye appeal and a well-defined large date attracted intense interest from collectors and investors. After a fierce bidding battle, the coin ultimately sold for an astonishing $860,000. This incredible price demonstrates how much collectors value historically significant coins, even when they are technically circulated. The combination of rarity, wartime history, and collector enthusiasm push the value far beyond what most people would expect for a 1-cent coin. The story of the 1942 Lincoln wheat penny reminds us that valuable coins can come from almost any period of history. What matters most is the unique combination of rarity, historical significance, preservation, and collector demand.